Welcome to episode 1 of the This Could Be Something Interesting podcast. Name to be confirmed.
Yeah. I think to stick to the letters, it kind of has a role to it.
Yeah, I mean, it Tooksby. It's basically what it is. Tooksby.
Okay, yeah, Tooksby.
We'll figure it out. So what are we chatting about today? Language and communication.
Yeah, language and communication.
Tell me about it.
Fucking great subject. I think language and communication is where someone comes up to you and they ask you for directions, and then you tell them to cross the road. You tell them to ask someone else.
That was classic.
That's a perfect description of language and communication. I mean, you ask a random member of the public, and who knows what you're going to get. But that was exactly it. But that's totally part of it. Like there was a thinking there. It was literally like, I know what it feels like when someone gives me too many directions, so I tell them to cross the road and ask someone else.
Yeah, that was amazing. For context, for anyone listening right now, but this person came up to Ben in Brighton the other day and said, "Hey, do you know how to get to XYZ place?" And Ben gave them these really long instructions. He said, "Right, you're going to go down there, you're going to turn left, you're going to go right, and you're going to cross the road, and then you're going to ask someone else."
I was like, as long as you're as far away from me as possible.
To me,
I really went into it with confidence. That was.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. And afterwards, and you looked at me afterwards, and you were like, "Why are you laughing?" And I was like, to me, that just sounded like go left, go right, fuck off, and ask someone else. That's what it sounded like to me, and to you. But that's what you're saying, right? To you, it kind of felt like, oh, hang on, you realized halfway through saying it, oh shit, they're not going to remember any of this.
They're not going to know past that direction. That was why it was so funny. I realized once I tell you here, I'm going to have to say left, right, left. And I was like, there's no point to that. So now I've taken you far enough away from me. And you know what? They were so grateful for it as well. They were like, thank you so much. I really hope they did ask someone else. And I hope that other person said, fucking ask someone else.
Probably. They're just a never-ending chain of asking people.
But yeah, I think that's a fucking great description of language and communication and all the areas in which it's inefficient. I'm deeply interested in language. I think I'm so interested in the general progression of language. And I don't even mean just outside of cultural narrative. I mean a general quantum leap in its progression, and our ability to solve problems is restricted by our current framework. We can't even really think outside of the, solving problems whilst, completely living within that idea of the language that we speak. We don't even know how to think outside of those ideas. I'm so interested in there's a full capacity, because language isn't just talking, it's your body language, it's your environment, it's everything. It's all speaking. Nature is speaking to you. Everything about where we've gotten to where we are is a type of language. Cybernetics is a type of language. It's this continuous progression. It's this steering, recognizing that we're off subject, we're on subject.
It's like they say even about what we see, right? We only see 0.001% of the electromagnetic spectrum, or I don't know what the exact figure is, but it's that, there's so much. It reminds me as well, we were talking the other day about that movie Arrival. Is it Arrival?
Yeah.
And that whole thing in there with the aliens, they communicate outside of time. Yeah. Their language has no pattern to it. And
it's a great film. And I think it captivated a lot of people for that reason. I think it resonated with us. We will sort of recognize that. I mean, it's true. And I mean it when I say it outside of maybe a cultural narrative. You're always going to have some kind of cultural narrative. But there's a point where our language isn't described by its culture, but described by where it's at in a position in time, in the sense that we did speak more words, more animalistic, more primitive, and now we speak these kind of words, and we speak them in a range of different languages. But eventually there's going to be a point where the words that we speak are kind of just primitive, in the sense that we'll be able to say a lot more with a lot less, and not even to mention the general linguistic capacity of the human voice, which is from music to beatboxing and all that sort of stuff. When you look at two beatboxers beatbox together. It's interesting because I guess that actually is it's a kind of conversation that you don't normally see, where it's happening at the same time as each other. They're having to respond at the same time as each other, whereas usually it's just kind of back and forth bits of information. And as much as you play an instrument with someone, there's something very interesting about speaking at the same time with someone, and that's not interrupting. That's the intention.
Yeah, you're kind of collaboratively co-creating.
Yeah.
Them.
Yeah. And maybe there's other ways of actually doing that within the ways that we speak. And, maybe we've barely even really touched the surface of the real capacity of our ability to express. I mean, not even to mention, we're tackling through kind of trying to read information out of someone as well. There's nothing efficient about the current way that we communicate. Especially when, because we're also tackling for a big social dynamic where people have their, you're sort of like, okay, maybe they say they want this, but maybe they're also doing it because of this. There's all these other layers. So there's nothing efficient about the way that we currently communicate. And that's why I do feel that language as a subject, and I've even tried to look this up, and it's generally hard to find. If you look at the progression of language, it's always related to its cultural narrative. Like it's going to be, the future will be a mixture of English and Spanish, or it'll be a mixture of, it's always talking through that kind of cultural perspective of language. But I'm talking about far, far ahead. Like, how do you think, like, recognize that the current way that we speak is just dated and keeping us, not progression? And that's what I mean. Like, we're stuck within that framework. We don't know how to think outside of it. And we're only going to solve problems that are in relation to that frame of language. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Other ways of thinking that we just don't even have the words yet. We don't
it's a really interesting point. I think the whole concept that we're kind of limited to what we can express through language is a really interesting concept, because that like you say, that is how we communicate, right? Through language. And like it's so true, because there are so many other forms of language, and there are, like you say, so many, even just like, cultural. I was talking when I was interviewing one of our clients the other day for Elevate, and we were talking about like building teams, and we were talking in there about how different teams, a lot of the time, there can be a breakdown in communication because of cultural differences, right? So like the way one team communicates might be very offensive to another team, but actually it's very well intended, right? So like everything just falls apart because of this cultural misunderstanding between kind of boundaries or borders or whatever you want to call them. And then there's just, and it is really bizarre how like one thing that you can hear from somebody can have a completely different meaning. It's like we think words are these, they carry, but they don't. The words are such a tiny part
because
of it.
You might say a word, and in the relation, it's also the understanding to the other person. Who knows how that other word interprets that word?
Yeah, 100%. It can trigger something, and like, could be anything. Even like names. I did that spoken word poem once. Don't know if you remember that, like about like names. Well, it wasn't. I think it was about meaning. And I was talking about how like we assign, meaning to different things, and like names can have meanings, right? Like if you had a really bad relationship with someone of a certain name, if you meet someone else with that name, it's going to trigger something inside, whether you like it or not, whether you've kind of moved on or you've healed from that, it's still going to evoke a feeling within you. And for good or bad, or no matter how hard you try, you can't stop that from happening. And again, I guess that comes down to it's language, it's words, it's how we assign meaning to things. But then the big question becomes like, how the hell do you escape that?
How do you escape what the
being restricted by language? Because what other methods of communication are there? I mean, I guess that's the whole thing, right? We just don't know yet. We don't know what we don't know.
I guess the thing is, it's kind of like recognizing that there is no efficient form of communication yet. Yet. And I guess that's it, and I guess it's a total nightmare whilst I think there's other layers where it's like the kind of language in relation to perhaps where identity is coming from. So the way that we speak is in relation to sort of maybe certain false identities, ego, or sort of, areas like this. And therefore so we might be communicating, but we're also communicating in a way that's sort of like, we don't even really understand who we are. So therefore, how do we even expect to be able to communicate properly when we're sort of expressing ideas through this illusionary idea of self in the first place and what we're talking about? So that therefore, it's just like kind of made up ideas, really, isn't it? Yeah.
True. But I guess as well, like on the communication, like, because if you put language to one side, it's like you mentioned about beatboxing and music. Like we, over the past 100 years, I think, humans have probably always, well, I mean, you even look back at flipping cave drawings, right? We've always communicated in some way, whether that be drawing on a flipping rock and carving on stone. We have always found ways to communicate. And if you look now at how we communicate, it isn't actually just language. Like even social media, like engaging, liking a post on social media is a form of communication. And that also, like, there's multiple layers to that, right? Because let's say I like a post on social media. Okay, it's one thing liking that individual's post, but there is also a factor, whether people want to admit this or not, where if I like something, I know that other people will see that I've liked that thing. And that then signals who I am. It's communicating who I am. It's a really powerful mechanism. We use this in marketing a lot, right? Where it's like, it's almost like virtue signaling. People do it all the time. If you can have something that people want to be associated with, they're going to engage with it.
It's totally in the way that we mirror each other as well, isn't it? We were talking about mirroring the other day. Mirroring is actually and also you were talking about the way in which we project
who other people think,
and they act accordingly. We're literally creating that reality. We're like, I believe you're this, and then they end up being like that thing that you thought they are, because you are putting that kind of energy. So it's sort of a bizarre shift where you're like, maybe I could actually sort of choose to see someone differently, choose to be more open, choose to sort of allow that space and to sort of see what people can actually turn into. I think that's really interesting. I mean, especially like we talk about social media. I mean, this is exactly it. I think the advancements in our ability to express is definitely in an area of technology. Do you know what I mean? I'm very interested in sort of the ideas of where maybe AI would fit into the progression of language. It's like that. There was an audio replication AI software where you could kind of speak to it and it would learn your vocal patterns. And there's lots of other things as well where maybe you can AI reactive visuals, so when you speak it will create the shape of your voice and all sorts of stuff like this. And that's really interesting. I find that really interesting because I think, especially for maybe people that I'm very dyslexic. I would definitely struggle learning in regular classroom environment. But maybe if someone was speaking to you and you were visually able to see the shape of their voice and see the sort of tone of something, and there was like an AI that could trigger the sort of emotional tone. It's like when you watch a film, like the world of music and cinematics these days. Like when you watch a scary film, we've gotten so good at creating sounds that are in relation to feeling, and we're trying to work that out when we're having a conversation with someone. But with technology, I think you can actually create those emotions. So imagine if you're speaking and we had the tone and we had the visuals and you were able to see the shape of someone's voice. There are all these other layers that we're just almost like totally missing out on. And I think certainly with things like technology, that might really advance our ability to maybe more clearly show those other layers that we're missing out on.
That's really, it kind of got me thinking when you were saying that about this kind of, it kind of got me thinking about like lie detectors initially, but then I was thinking like, well, actually, in the sense that I'll explain what I mean by that. So like, where I could absolutely see that going and AI coming in is where it could effectively do what a lie detector is doing and listening to the tonality and certain patterns in your voice that might indicate you're feeling a certain emotion. Like if AI gets really good at understanding these kind of linguistic patterns and tones and different forms of human behavior, it might be able to give a good read on that and say, this person's really nervous, this person's really anxious, this person's feeling really happy, really excited. And that could be a good thing, maybe, but then also it almost feels a little bit like I don't know, like intrusive and do you know what I mean? Because it's it's almost the ability to fake is something we've got very good at. Like when somebody asks, how are you feeling?
Maybe that's all right. Maybe we want to be able to do that.
Exactly,
but maybe that's also in relation to the identity thing. Well, maybe for as long as we're kind of maintaining a sense of self-identity is the very reason we don't want to be seen in all these other ways. And so therefore that's adding more to the inefficiency of our communicating. So it's sort of like, as long as I can.
So AI could maybe force us into like liberation. Because like imagine, right? Like it could literally, if we get to the stage where, and I can see this happening very soon, where we have augmented reality contact lenses that are integrated with AI. And imagine, like, you could literally we could be talking in person, I'm looking through my lens and you've got like an overlay on you, and it says, like, as you're talking to me, I can see like, oh, Ben's nervous right now,
it's like kill him. Kill him now.
Like don't trust this guy. Run.
But totally. Assess.
But then and it's it's kind of like, I don't know, it feels a little bit uncomfortable, but also I guess it does like force you into a position where if everybody has access to that technology, we have no choice but to tell the truth, because people know.
I don't even know if it's like a thing of truth. Maybe it's just a thing of, it just becomes a kind of like a transparency and and essentially a lack of there's almost shame of being a human being or something. It's and you just drop all of that and you go, okay, oh wow, you can see all these things in everyone. All this shit doesn't matter. All this shit that we're trying to maintain and not show and whatever is actually probably just a reflection of just being a human being. And all these things actually should be read, properly. And we want to be able to express that efficiently. It's like I had that kind of idea for a kind of an installation where essentially the installation itself would be empty. Be nothing in it. And the idea is when you go into the room, it's a room that kind of visually would react to you. Normally you go into an environment and very quickly in milliseconds you've decided who you are in that environment. Most of the time that's what happens. But this is the idea. It'll be a room that visually reacts to the tone of your voice, that reacts to you walking in it. So rather than a room that you walk into and react to the environment, you're reacting to that environment is a room that reacts to you. It's a reflection of you, and then suddenly you get more and more people in there. It'll be a reflection of the people in that room. So it'll be
super interesting.
Yeah, it is a fascinating idea.
Because I genuinely believe that like that is how reality works. Like our environment does react to us and how we internally feel. Like I genuinely, and it's like we were saying about people, right? Like how we see people is how they're going to mirror back to us. And it's like, that is, if we go out to the world thinking it's a scary, hostile place, the world's going to be scary and hostile, and we will just encounter scary and hostile situations. If we go out believing something else, like the environment does it reflect our internal state. I've seen this with my life so much. It's insane. So I think that's fascinating. I think that's like such a powerful idea, because it's kind of that is what is happening, And
it's almost, the idea is it's like the advancements of that. Like I said, it would react to a group of people, and then maybe you'll be actually able to, quite literally read a room. Maybe there would be actually a way of learning about the visuals that are happening and being able to read that as a new kind of language that we probably just wouldn't understand, but being able to read a group of people and the sort of tone and behaviors of them, which we aren't.
Energetic vibrations of
all these other things that we're sort of totally missing out on. But but that's just a kind of a rough idea as an installation. I thought the idea is it could even be easily split out into personal VR experience where it could be experienced anywhere. Yeah, and it gives you a chance to where maybe you could talk to the AI, and it's a reflection of you. It's not necessarily any different. I mean, that's the same with the sort of audio replication as well. The idea of that really, I think, maybe for musicians is amazing because there's plenty of stuff like this for loads of musicians that have uploaded hours and hours of guitar or bass or whatever. And I think there's one, Dadabots, I think they're called, and they uploaded like a bass player, and he died or something, but they got hours of him playing, and now they've uploaded this never-ending live stream of an AI playing his style of bass forever. Which is a fascinating idea, like especially audio replication. But I think even beyond maybe the idea that you could use audio replication to learn off of yourself. You're like, I wouldn't have necessarily come up with that rhythmic pattern. I wouldn't have necessarily come up with that idea, and therefore you're call and response. You're learning off of yourself. It's like an extension to your brain coming up with the other possibilities which you might not necessarily come up with. Same with vocals. Same with talking. It's sort of like the idea that you could speak to it, and then maybe you could find other ways of speaking and other ways that it could imitate you, and then before you're able to learn off of yourself, and our language might advance past the current framework that we're thinking in as it.
I do think that this whole kind of concept of like, AI effectively just, and I think it will, like the more we talk about this, is I think it is just going to almost, like for want of a better word, just expose us. It's almost like just going to, rip the metaphorical towel off everyone, or we'll all be like walking around naked basically. But we will, right? Like, because it will get to that stage where, and maybe I'm sure there are some, it's like you said, right? It's kind of like almost comes down to this human rights discussion of like, well, really we should have the right to lie or to not tell the truth about something, if we don't feel comfortable, should talking to someone, should they have to know how we're feeling? That's a whole other discussion entirely. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, it kind of gets into the whole like freedom of speech debate, right? Like you can't really have this utopia without, if you believe in freedom of speech, you've got to believe in freedom of speech for everyone. And if you believe in it for everyone, there are going to be some people who say some really evil, horrible things and potentially provoke riots and do all this other crazy stuff, right? Like,
it's gonna happen. I don't know who says it. It's like when you hear the word freedom, run. When someone's telling you that they're going to give you freedom, get the fuck away from them. And it's a funny concept, but it's true. Like, because everything about it also has the right to go against everything that freedom implies. You can do the opposite. That is in itself a type of freedom. You could do the opposite to what they're saying. It would be freedom. So I mean, totally. That's a humorous area of it, I think.
I think it's interesting as well that like language and communication, what I've kind of started realizing as we're talking is that you do think they are directly linked, but actually they're not, one the other interesting thing you mentioned about like music as well, and kind of beatboxes and or not just beatboxes, but I guess even music in general, even like if a band is jamming together, right? Like like jazz musicians when they just kind of go on these kind of riffs, and they they have their little solos, and they all kind of they complement each other, they go back and forth, like that is co-creation, and that is a form of communication. It's a form of expression in a completely different way.
And
there are
so many areas. And this is what I find really interesting. I've thought about this idea before, the idea that I guess as time goes on, we're going to find Yeah, like, maybe the future of language, if we actually far into the future, when we actually don't have to, like, a large amount of people just don't have to go to jobs that they don't care about and don't have to just spend a lot of their time, just kind of trying to, make a living and get through, that maybe they'll actually spend their time to learn all these. Maybe like rapping, being able to freestyle rap, right, will just be a regular thing that we can all do. Do you know what I mean? Maybe we'll chuck the idea of talent just out the window as the future goes on. Do you know what I mean? Maybe if we all spent our time, like we had more free time, maybe more people would be able to dance, maybe more people would be able to sing, maybe more people would have all these other forms of expression, and they don't necessarily become like, there wouldn't be necessarily a musician or a rapper or a dancer or whatever. They would actually just be part of what you might see in day-to-day life. It might be part of how you interact with someone. So maybe you would beatbox with someone. Maybe you would just dance with a stranger. Maybe you would, and these, because nonetheless, once again, it's totally, you're speaking. You're speaking when you dance. You're speaking when you play music.
It's interesting how we've kind of chosen as a society, or as humanity as a whole, we've seemed to have chosen language as our primary mode of communication, right? Because interestingly, like all these other even language, though, like language in those forms, in spoken word poetry, rap, singing, acting, like it is also an art form. It's like that book, what was that book you recommended to me? Elements of Eloquence. It's a really awesome book. Like, such a great awesome book. But then it can, like, language in itself can just be this really fun, artistic, fascinating thing that you can play with, and it doesn't have to have all these like icky, like negotiations rules. Or whatever rules. And so then it becomes an art form, like all of these other things that we might consider art forms, like dancing, like, music, or like anything else. But we've kind of settled on like language as being like, the main one. There was there like a movie, or was it like a game I was playing at some point recently, and it was like there was another species, and I think they did communicate through like dance or something.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, why the hell not?
Yeah.
Maybe we'll all become sort of, strange avatar things, and just sort of. But maybe there's a total layer of, maybe but this is what I mean by, like, there's going to be, and that's what I mean by a kind of quantum leap in our progression in language, because there's going to be a point, in the same way that when you look at years and years ago, not like, a couple hundred years ago, I'm talking, when we just made sounds at each other. When you look at that and go, that's just, but it's nothing it's not in any relation to what we do now. And there is going to be a point in the future where the way that we speak is going to be looked at as like, that's just totally inefficient,
prehistoric and inefficient.
Exactly that. Because it's not, maybe that's what will happen, and that's what I mean by the full linguistic capacity, whether that's related to beatboxing. Your face has a lot more capability.
Because I guess we're basically limited, like you say, our ability to solve problems or to thrive as a species is limited to the amount of words we have in our dictionary.
Exactly.
Kind of right.
And this is it. Like, and some people, like, it's a sad thing of, like, simply being. It's not that someone wouldn't have the ability to think like that, but it's like there are words that don't yet exist.
Yeah.
There are
How do I put this into words?
There is a word that doesn't describe a certain thing yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you always hear, like, people always say, right? Like, I can't find the words for it.
Yeah. And this is it, and maybe we will learn it's such a funny idea, because to me, I remember in school, they gave me fucking shit tons of extra English, and then I still failed English. But it's into a point where it's like, I was good at art, okay, and I'm pretty good at communicating, I'd say. But then they gave me loads of English because they were like, look, all right, you're not very good at this, so don't give you more of art, that thing that you're good at. even though that's still communicating. That's still
Did they know
language.
you were dyslexic at school?
Oh yeah. Yeah. But then they just give me loads of fucking
just,
English,
like,
and I still fucking failed English. I was like, what
Shock.
a fucking waste of time that was.
What a revelation.
Exactly, but this is the thing. There's not the fact that there's not in school. You know, you spend all this time learning English, and you're like, have you spelt that correctly? Have you done this correctly? That's going to change. Those things, like, you know, we might keep them for a while, but like we're going to get better and more efficient. There'll be new words and all sorts of things, and there'll be different ways of us communicating. But, you know, there needs to be more subjects for just communicating. The amount of people that probably leave school and go into education or go into work, and they barely even know how to communicate with another human being, but they're like, I know how to spell that correctly. It's like, there's so many areas where it's just like you spend all this time learning this language, which will eventually change. You know, even through a cultural lens, we will eventually speak slightly different. It won't be the regular English that we speak. Things will change.
I mean, that just sums up without getting, that's a whole nother topic entirely, but it kind of sums up the school system entirely, right? Like people, it's kind of like, I know how to spell this, but I don't know how to communicate. It's like, you know, it's all theory. It's all kind of like you learn from textbooks.
Yeah.
And, you know, then what? Like, how do you apply that to the real world? Like, that's what nobody really kind of teaches you or tells you.
Yeah, and I think you'll probably begin to see more. I think it would definitely, as time goes on, you'll begin to see more of like teaching people a way of thinking rather than teaching people. You go, okay, here's the information, and they go, oh, thank you for the information, and they carry that information around with them, and then they pass on that information, and that's what being intelligent looks like for a lot of people. Oh, look, I picked up all this information that you said to me. I'm going to carry it around. I'm going to pass it on to more people. Rather than if you teach someone a way of thinking, it gives them a chance for them that they might actually learn these pieces of information themselves because they're able to see it within their environment, see it within, you know, they're able to problem solve. They're like, you know, like
I think more importantly, people can create from that, right? If you teach them how to think, they can kind of create things for themselves. Yeah. I think that's something we're kind of seriously lacking is like, I think we're all natural born creators, right? It's what we are. But we have kind of lost the ability to create as opposed to just regurgitate.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, you know, obviously that's a whole nother discussion for like, you know, do we ever really create? Is there really such a thing as an original thought and all of this kind of thing? But the idea is like, you know, whatever you believe creations are, you know, personally, I think they are like amalgamations of just learned experiences and our unique perceptions of the world. You know, we all perceive things in a unique way, and we just mash all of these points of reference together, and that's where a lot of ideas come from. They're all going to be slightly different because we all see the world in a different way through our own lens. But it's I've kind of lost where I was going with that thought, but it was like a little bubble. It was like a little, you know, like when a little bubble appears from your brain, it gets really big. Like that. That's like how I describe my ADHD. It's like this inflating bubble. It's like a tangent, and then it pops, and I'm like, oh shit, where am I?
Such a good description for just when you lose a trail of thought. I do it all the time. I'm like, I'm massive, and that is because that is exactly how it goes as well. You're like,
it just literally pops.
I'm going to change the. You're like, what the fuck am I?
Yeah.
It's totally like, I do it all the time. And then there's sort of like this feeling of like when you're there and it's gone, it's like there's a feeling of embarrassment coming. You're sort of like, oh no. It's like, that's what like, you know, taking, what did you say, the AI, you know, taking the metaphorical towel off us.
Yeah.
Where was I going with this conversation? I think that's fucking great.
I do that all the time. I mean, that is.
You're going to use that bubble. The bubble came. The bubble popped. Yeah, that's it. The bubble popped. Yeah, that's a great description of.
The worst thing is, like, do you get that when you can see, like, you can when you've like trailed off, and it's almost like you can see the end of the road ahead of you, and you're like. Shit. And you can like see it coming, and then you're like, how do I like recover this? Like, where can I go from here? And sometimes you can make a new road to keep it going.
Oh yeah.
Or you just no, I'm just going to accept defeat and I'm just going to stop and be like, sorry, I've just gone off on a tangent.
Yeah. And sometimes I've definitely seen the end of the tunnel, and then I found the way back, and then gone again. I was like, oh
yeah.
And then it's really gone. After that, you've for some reason you've taken a wrong turn, gone into the fucking jungle.
Yeah, that is just a perfect example of communication or communication issues. Basically, the way we currently
you go down there, you cross the road, and you fuck off.
And you fuck off. So good.
That was really funny. I mean, I appreciate them for asking me. I clearly look like someone that would know where to go.
You look like a local.
You look like a local. This guy knows where he's going. Local. He knows where to take us. But no, that's totally it. Just language and communication is just such a fucking great subject, and I think more people should maybe, just generally taking the time to think about it through that kind of perspective, and recognizing that our language is just, you've just been told a load of words. It doesn't mean you're experiencing reality. It's like the whole kind of you see your thoughts, right? And this is what I mean by the kind of identification thing. It's like it's like the moment you're told you go, what's that? And they go, oh, that's a bird. And then after that you always see a bird. You see your thoughts, you see bird, but you never see the bird again. Every time you sort of live through that kind of complex, you're sort of seeing your thoughts, and you see that with everything around you. So I think there's a layer of language.
It's so powerful, yeah.
Language and communication, which is in relation to, the identity that we have with it. And
do you know what I always thought would be great is, have you seen, what was it called? The Marvels, the new one with the three. It's got Miss Marvel.
I think we started watching it, but then we didn't get very far with it. Yeah.
It's so good. There's you need to finish it. There's a scene in there where they go to this Captain Marvel. They go to this country where she's married this prince or something, and this whole not country, like a world, right, in another galaxy, in this world, that they communicate through song. They can't talk, they can only sing. And it's almost like musicals, like in musicals where people just burst into song, the whole street starts dancing. Can you imagine that would be such a wicked way of communicating if every time, I mean, it would be kind of exhausting. And also, I don't know logistically how that would work, because if everyone else is getting involved in your conversation by singing and dancing, how are they having their conversations? If you imagine, it's kind of I want to speak to this person, but shit, I've got to put on a performance now for this person who's having a conversation. Or maybe two people can just sing and dance and not everyone else gets involved.
Yeah, and I guess it's just a kind of general. That's what I mean by when we mirror someone, on a social level, we sort of find that area of relation, and maybe it's just a type of mirroring. You harmonize with them, in the same time. Maybe it's just in relation to that. It's sort of as a vibration. You're just going into a similar wave pattern to them, and I guess
that's a really interesting point. Because
totally the idea of like I was saying, freestyle rap. The idea that if we had more time, it's actually just a thing that a lot of us can do. We if you were just taught that. If you were just generate from early, there would be so many things that you'd be able to do if you were it was just in your life.
Just practice, yeah.
If you grew up and everyone did it, it would be in your brain. It would be in your world. It wouldn't be like a different language to you. It wouldn't be this impossible thing. And there's so many things like that from, especially within arts that we relate to as oh, those people are so amazing at what they do. It's well, actually, it's just in relation to exposure.
I think also, though, it does, with freestyle rap in particular, it comes down to that, what you were saying about with ego before as well, though, because, I watched a lot of interviews with Harry Mack, And someone asked him before, like, you know, and I felt this as well with freestylers. It's like the reason I don't do it or don't even try it is because I kind of think like I'm going to end up saying something really stupid. And it's almost like but I do genuinely believe that. I genuinely believe like if I was high, I think I could freestyle really well because you kind of like you like lose your inhibitions almost, and it's kind of like you just chat shit, but it's like flipping amazing. This like free flow of just like, you know, stream of consciousness, and that's where it's kind of like if I try and kind of rap this, I could do it, but I don't know what's going to come out, and I'm scared of what's going to come out, and that's kind of like speaking in general, right?
I guess
think
that's why it's humorous, because it's sort of like you don't necessarily feel like that when you talk. You know, you're not necessarily like, oh no, oh god, what am I going to say?
But we can slow it down, and that's the thing, right? It's kind of like with talking.
You know, I guess with some extent, you know, if it was such a norm to you, and maybe maybe it wouldn't be such a. But yeah, I mean, you know, I guess that it is definitely slower. Give us time to think and, you know, process. And I'm not saying everyone should just be freestyle rapping everywhere they go. But it is an interesting. It's totally as a thought. Like, I think that's kind of a bizarre idea that, you know, there's just these art forms don't necessarily just have to be in relation to art forms. They could actually just be in relation to communicating in a more efficient and dynamic way. I mean, this is the whole thing, like I was saying about, you know, cinematic music, and, you know, like especially get it in like horror films, but they've just like found these tones that just fucking, you know, they make you feel shit. They really do. We're so good at it. Cinematic music is just like so great now, and you definitely get maybe beatboxers will be able to create these tones more with their face. So we have the ability to create like that kind of emotional feeling through we can create those tones. We can also create those tones ourselves, you know. If you were there making cinematic noises, you'd be like, are you all right? But we don't know how to read that, you know, but we know how to feel it. So therefore, maybe it's an inability for us to actually read, you know, emotion, I guess, as well.
That's a really interesting point there, because I mean that just comes into, you know, our own, again, like, you know, beliefs or what, you know, expectations of what is normal and what isn't normal. But like it's kind of like I think to an extent you're probably right. Like sounds and music are a lot of the time much more effective at actually conveying emotion than words, significantly more. And so it's kind of like, if we did want to convey emotion, why do we not do that? And it's and like you say, it's because there is this, you know, we would be worried that people would think we're weird if we started making some noises. But it's kind of like them, but birds do it, right? It's like bird song. Like, you know, I'm sure birds aren't like, oh god, I don't want to sing to you because then all the humans are going to think I'm weird.
I mean, it's a great fucking idea. I'd love to see a room full of people just fucking making noises and, you know,
like
really
bird chirps.
Yeah, really just get it. Yeah, really, that's so emotional, just crying in front of each other. It's like that. I think there's that scene in Rick and Morty where he has like the crystal on his head, and he's sort of like, he just has to admit he can like control the future. He can see into the future, and there's a future that he wants. So he just makes a series of sounds that, as long as it leads him to that future that he wants, he's like a microphone, and all the people are like, I don't know what he said, but he definitely needs to like go on. You know, it was like maybe it just led people in the right direction. Yeah, you know, I don't know. That's such a funny scene in Rick and Morty.
So funny.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's continue this discussion in the comments. So for anyone listening, we'd love for you to share your thoughts on language and communication, or also any funny stories that you've had around language and communication, like Ben's, you know, telling people to fuck off when they ask you for directions. We'd love to hear your stories on that. So make sure that you tag us, drop us a message wherever you're listening to this. Make sure you follow us on socials. We haven't really got the social thing figured out yet. We've kind of like, all our social channels are at Tuxby Pod. TC. I don't even flipping know. What is it? This could be something interesting. TCBSI. This could be something interesting. Pod. But we might just change it to this could be something interesting podcast because maybe that is easier.
Yeah,
language. Flipping language.
Language and communication. Maybe we've found a really fucking difficult one for everyone to find.
We found the most difficult one.
We should make this the most difficult fucking video to find on language and communication.
How can we prove our point? How can we prove the point?
Code the whole thing. Deep web, I'm just talking.
Exactly. So yeah, at TCSBI pod is what we're on right now.
It's got a real fucking ring to it.
Go follow us. But we're going to figure it out. And if any suggestions on the name as well, please help us because we're struggling here. We're really struggling with that. But yeah, so awesome. That was the inaugural. Is that what they call it? Inaugural? Is that the right word? Like inaugural.
What is that?
I think so. I think it's like the first, like the inaugural episode.
Okay,
the beginning.
Nice.
Yeah, it's quite a cool word, isn't it? Inaugural.
I looked that
the
up.
Inaugural episode of the new podcast. But we will be back and we're going to be doing some cool stuff. And I should have probably explained this at the start of it instead of the end, but the concept of this podcast, I mean, I don't really know. We just kind of made it up like randomly the other day. But it's really just to kind of explore. I kind of came out of a bit of a tagline. It's kind of like where curious minds can just like roam free. Mm-hmm. And it's really, and the clues in the name, like whatever kind of is just interesting to us, like whatever conversations are interesting, like conversations that kind of aren't being had. We're also going to have a bunch of
that food for thought, really, isn't
it?
Food
for thought. Yeah, just like things to
like let's relook at something. Let's break it down, and I think there are lots of things like that. So I think it's
things that we take for granted normally that can be kind of broken down into their individual components, and we're going to have a bunch of different guests on, like all kinds of random, weird, and wonderful people that we'll have on. I was thinking, like, do you know, it would be great to get what are those things called? You know, the things that you play, those musical things.
Is that what you want? I don't know.
Do you know what it is?
Harpsichord? It's not a harpsichord. It's a. I don't know. Yeah. What, the piano? The breathable piano?
Yeah. Like one of those, like a player. And I knew one as well. I was trying to think.
You knew one of those.
Yeah, like a profession, professionally. Yeah. And now I can't remember their name, but you meet all kinds of interesting people at the coffee shop. So Ben's gonna be, I'm sure, bringing on some like cool guests.
Oh yeah, we'll get some great people. Yeah,
all
totally.
walks
it's gonna be
of
really,
life.
Really good. And you wanted that as a kind of backing music though. Let's get back to the
not backing. Well, I mean, they could be.
Do they continuously play throughout the podcast? Is it just?
I'm just curious, like, how do you get into that?
As in, are you saying you're looking to maybe learn a new instrument and?
Yeah, maybe it might become a new passion.
You're just saying, please, if anyone does know anyone, I need some lessons.
I do find that fascinating, like how people get into like certain. But that's kind of what one of the things that I think would be really cool to dive into, like how people get into just certain passions and hobbies, and there's so many like just like sub cultures that are emerging at the moment, right? Like even like cosplay. Like I think cosplay is like a really interesting thing, and there's these people that kind of do like actual whole full on like not just like cosplaying, but they actually like role play, right? Like in real life, like as mages and wizards and knights and things. And it's a full on thing, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a whole community
it's the deep dive of anything, isn't it? You suddenly like you get a bike, and then you're like, oh, there's a community for this thing on a bike, or there's a community for this thing on a bike.
Yeah,
this niche. You can just go to any.
It goes so deep,
with anything. Absolutely, it's so funny, and it's like it's fascinating to sort of step into someone's world, their little world that they love, and they love that thing so much, and it's so good to just kind of because why not? Why the hell not? Absolutely anything goes, and it's great to just meet people with some sort of bizarre fire for just the obscure.
You know who we should get on that? If you see that chicken guy.
The chicken guy?
Yeah, with the chicken on his shoulder in that pub. If you see him about in Brighton, he'll have to say, like, hey, man.
Oh, yeah. As long as, like, I mean, it depends how much. I'm talking, we really want that chicken in the podcast.
In the podcast, yeah.
It's got to be a large amount of that. And preferably a chat with the chicken as well.
Exactly. That'll be what we need. And we also need to have a conversation with plants as well. Maybe AI can help us with that. We can kind of plug in, like, some sort of... You can do that, can't you? You can plug in an electrical signal thing into plants. Like, I've seen all sorts of
There's
weird,
all sorts
crazy
of live
things
jams that you can do, and you'll see responses and all sorts of funny stuff.
It's insane. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you in the next episode.
Oh, nice. Thanks, guys.